All right. Again, for folks who are just joining us, my name is Laura. I'm the Assistant Dean of Admissions, Vocation, and Stewardship, and we are very excited that you are here at our first virtual faculty panel of Admitted Students Days. This afternoon, we have a conversation with three of the best VDS faculty members. I'll give brief introductions and then have them take it away. First of all, we have Professor A.J. Levine, who is University Professor of New Testament and Jewish Studies, and the Mary Jane Worthen Professor of Jewish Studies at Vanderbilt, both the Divinity School and Arts and Sciences, I believe, and is also the affiliated professor at the Wolf Institute Center for Jewish Christian Relations at Cambridge. And we have Professor Lisa Thompson, who is Associate Professor and the Cornelius Vanderbilt Chancellor Faculty Fellow of Black Homiletics and Liturgics, and Professor Bruce Morrill, Edward A. Malloy Chair of Roman Catholic Studies and member of the Society of Jesus, who is Professor of Theological Studies. So for those of you who don't know the drill already, as they're speaking, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat box. Angela and I will be monitoring the chat box, and then we'll raise the questions afterwards. And then we'll, if we have time, let you all show your faces, and I'll stop the recording and we can have conversation. So for faculty, the first question I had for you was, how did you know you wanted to teach in your field?
Well, I knew that I wanted to teach in my field because I fell in love with theology as an undergraduate student some 40 years ago. Was inspired by some really fine professors in a relatively small liberal arts college, so that whole environment really nurtured me in that interest. And then having mentors from there forward through the ensuing years, doctoral studies and all that. But my basic point was, I fell in love with theology because of small class sizes, really good professors, and a mentoring environment.
I guess I can go next. When I was 7 years old, a kid on the school bus told me that I killed her Lord, and I thought that was bizarre. And it got me wondering why people believe things that made absolutely no sense to me. And the more I looked into such concerns, the more fascinating I found the text on which they are based and the various ways those texts could be interpreted. And I figured if I couldn't get a job, I'd go to law school, but I got a job.
I love that. I'll go next, I guess, because that's similar. I think, so I was one of those people who didn't know. I did not know that I wanted to teach what I taught. And I think it was a series of life events that were happenstantial and coincidental and great mentors and teachers. So I too had an alternative path in case this whole gig didn't work out, and that was to be a psychologist. Thank goodness I was saved from that. But I was always a child with questions and curiosity, and it was often unsatisfying, the questions, the answers and responses that I received to my questions. I grew up in the rural North Carolina South and had a mother who really loved her Jesus, and had relatives and other people who had strong religious experiences that I knew religion wasn't just an opiate for them, but a very real thing that helped them in the day-to-day. And yet I was always concerned about some of the things that the ways our lives could be impacted by the things that happen from pulpit spaces. So at the end of the day, this is how I come into a place where I'm concerned about what people say and do in the name of religion for really the underdogs, and how it impacts them.
Thank you. So for you, what's distinct about teaching at VDS?
Do you want to go in the same order?
You can.
No,
I like it when Bruce goes first.
Ball's in your court first this time.
Thanks. Well, I taught for 9 years at Swarthmore College before coming to Vanderbilt. So I had 9 years of teaching really, really smart undergrads. The difference in teaching at Vanderbilt is, first of all, the students have greater maturity. They have more life experience. They come from a much wider age range. And they tend to ask questions that are not only academic, but also personal. And this goes to Lisa's point about how religion actually means something to folks. They ask questions about how the text has been used to harm people, whether people of different religions than the person making the proclamation, or people who fall on different parts of the LGBTQI plus spectrum, or issues of race or issues of class. They ask questions of practicality. So in the undergraduate classroom, it's very substantially historical. In the VDS classroom, it combines history with very practical, what does this text mean to me? What does this text mean to my community? How has this text been interpreted over time? And I find that a much more exciting conversation.
Bruce, do you want to hold out and go last?
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, as I think about VDS, for me, in terms of the intersections of people who think about public proclamation and preaching and ritual and worship, I don't think a better place is doing it at the intersection of engagement in the world around us. And that's those, I think I love the intersection of people who are coming to study this as a practice and people who are coming to train other people how to do this as a practice. And that's why I teach here at VDS. As even why I joined the team as I left somewhere else recently. And so that's part of my answer.
Yeah, like as with HA, Professor Levine, oh, am I muted?
Nope, you're on.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks. As with HA, Professor Levine, I taught for quite a few years, in fact, 15 at Boston College before I came here nearly 9 years ago. And enjoyed teaching both undergrads, masters, and PhD students in a largely Roman Catholic student body. And though not so much on the doctoral program, much more ecumenical, but for the opportunity to come in a more robustly ecumenical environment, both faculty and students, I find very stimulating. I had found it such when I had done my doctorate at another university. And here we get to, I think, challenge each other with questions and also challenge each other to listen and to be open to having a lot of our preconceived notions set aside so as to really, learn and grow into this very, let's face it, very complex, globalized world we live in now. So I enjoy teaching here for those reasons. And as has already been mentioned by my colleagues, students come with very good real life questions, but also very good dreams, desires, and even plans for how they're going to take this forward, people with their senses of vocation. And so it's a privilege to try to help and serve people as they figure that out, and for themselves and with each other.
Thank you. Would you share a little bit about some of your current research?
Lisa?
Okay, my turn, I guess. I'll go first. My current project is called Preaching the Headlines. And this project really tries to say, how can we put communities of faith in conversation with the everyday world in very practical ways? One of the things that I find often is that communities of faith do not know how to have conversations around racism, the environment, interreligious engagement. All those matters that they think have nothing to do with faith. And I'm screaming, absolutely, they have everything to do with faith, and becomes a problem of translation. So my attempt at this point in writing this book is an extension of a class I developed about 7 years ago, where I just try to help frame everyday conversations in the world as matters of faith, honestly. And on the other side, that there is a particular Christian narrative that has a large footprint in our media and in the world around us. And I think even for those outside of Christian faith traditions, there is something significant about understanding tenets of Christian traditions, so we can actually, I want to say, blow them up a little or expand them a little for their greater possibilities instead of their death-dealing possibilities. So that's my most immediate project.
Yeah, it's exciting. I have a few things going on to reach one's early 60s and be a bit established. There's the matter of accepting lots of invitations to write for volumes and books and so forth. So that's been keeping me kind of busy. One of the key areas I write in is at the intersection of liturgy and sacraments and ethics, broadly conceived. And I keep working on essays to that end. But in terms of larger projects, there are two. One I've been chipping away at for a year or two now, but haven't gotten it yet into book form. And the book's working title is Faith's Unfinished Business. And the subtitle is A Mystical Political Theology of Easter. And the basic tenet of the project is that Christians will do, I think, better in living the faith if they recognize right up front that faith isn't about a bunch of answers, but much more about something we're living into, which is incomplete. That the notion of God's salvation in who we believe is the Messiah, Christ Jesus, is something that is anything but finished. And so the way I'm working on the project is to write in relation to the way in which the Roman Catholic, but many other Christian traditions keep 50 days of Easter as an opening out into something that is not finished. And doing it specifically, anchoring it through the Revised Common Lectionary and the Roman Lectionary, which in the Easter season, the Easter Sundays, 7 Sundays, the second reading is from, in a 3-year cycle, 1 Peter, 1 John, and the book of Revelation. And I've been a priest almost 30 years and found that throughout the Easter season, those are the texts that I preach on. And they speak as much to what we believe God is still trying to bring about, and not so much that, oh, well, we got through Lent and we got over the finish line and it's Easter, you know, ta-da. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a look. The other project grows out of a plenary address I gave in Durham, England last year. And it deals with liturgical memory, which was my first large book. I've come up with 6 heuristic devices, 6 models or 6 types of the way Christians keep memory or exercise memory in their acts of liturgy and worship. And that was very well received. And I'd like to find the time and the opportunity to expand each of those into some chapters that might help people frame both their understanding and their practice of memory in liturgy.
Wow. God, I like my colleagues. They do interesting things. I think I have 5 major projects underway. I spent the morning tracking down a few of my recalcitrant authors. I'm the general New Testament editor for a new biblical commentary series for Oxford University Press. Oxford has never had a single volume commentary series before. So along with Steve McKenzie, who's my Old Testament counterpart, we worked up the model for the series and then targeted quite an international group of scholars to participate. So a few of them have not yet sent in proposals, and they have to go through proposals. That's what I did this morning. I am a co-editor with a fellow named Joseph Sievers, who's a fellow Jesuit with Bruce, based at the Biblicum in Rome, on a series of essays regarding the Pharisees, which stems from a conference that was co-sponsored by the Vatican this past May. So I'm now editing a lot of German material, which is just great fun and fabulous for my vocabulary. I'm at the page 5th stage of a volume I co-authored with Mark Brettler, who is my co-editor for the Jewish Annotated New Testament. The title is The Bible With and Without Jesus, where we look in 13 chapters at the major so-called fulfillment citations in the New Testament, where Jesus sort of checks the box on certain Old Testament things. And we go back and we figure out what the text meant in its original context. We look at how it was used, or if it was used in Second Temple Judaism. And then we look at post-biblical Jewish interpretations of the same material. So what the volume does is introduce Christians to Jewish exegesis. It introduces Jews to passages in our own Bible that we are very unfamiliar with because the Christians sort of took over this stuff, so we don't read it. And it shows multiple possibilities of a text that a lot of people think, well, Jesus fulfilled it, now I can just take it and put it up on a shelf and don't have to deal with it anymore. I'm working right now this week on a short volume on the Sermon on the Mount, which will be my 4th adult education book for Abingdon Press. We will be filming videos to go along with it this coming Thursday and Friday, presuming we can get into public space to do it. And we're looking at what it means to have one foot in the kingdom of heaven, which is what I think the Sermon on the Mount is about. And then I'm trying to get a bunch of minor projects done, as Bruce had mentioned. Finally, I turned in a book manuscript last January, and the editor was not happy with it because he thought it was going to be a Jesus Solves Everything by Sundown volume. And I don't think Jesus solves everything by sundown. I think Bruce is exactly right. These traditions are still in process, whether Judaism or Christianity or Islam or whatever. So I have to go reconfigure the introduction to make it clear that I'm not doing a solved by sunset volume, but it's a volume, and it's not a what would Jesus do volume either, because I think that's a dumb question. He doesn't live in the 21st century. But it's a, how did the gospel text help us think through certain issues that are hot button issues today? And in that sense, it's somewhat like Lisa's concern for preaching from the headlines. How do we put that text in conversation with today? And what might history teach us so that we have a better way of reflecting both on what the biblical text says and what our own values are in light of the biblical text? And I clearly need a sabbatical.
It sounds like it. That's amazing. The next question is maybe a little easier. What do you enjoy outside of your academic life? Divulge as much or as little as you like.
I have a puppy. I just got a puppy. I'm so excited. After 36 years of marriage, asking and asking, I have a puppy.
What kind of puppy?
A puppy. It's a puppy. It's a Labradoodle. Oh. It will be about 25. It's now just 3 months old. And it's named Maury, after the King James version of the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, which talks about how moreover the dogs licked his sores. And I thought, moreover, what a great name for a dog. So I have a dog named Maury after moreover the dog. That's what makes me happy.
Maury we heard? Did we hear Maury in the background?
You might have heard Maury in the background, but I have help here keeping Maury away from the computer, which she likes to eat.
Oh. I always love this question because it's almost a question to say, are you human or are you divine or are you superhuman or superhero? I think I'm like most people. I love spending time with people who know me outside of any titles, anything that I do, who just know me for who I am. So that usually involves cooking. That usually involves binge watching Netflix, yes. And on a good day, it includes some Zumba.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, I have developed in these years moving to Nashville and having a little townhouse with a small garth, a green thumb. In fact, this afternoon when I get done with 2 more tasks and with daylight savings time, I'm looking forward to planting some early flowers in the back and working there. Anyway, surprise to me moving to Nashville was to discover I like to do a little gardening. I really enjoy that. I am a keyboardist when I get some time and haven't as much of late. But the other thing that has become a big part of my life in the last 3 years is yoga. And up until yesterday, was able to go to 3 different groups a week. That's pretty much off in Nashville for now. But I'm doing a lot of stuff on my own, and I do a lot every morning anyway. But I really, really do enjoy it. Along with the Nashville Symphony, get a half-season subscription, and it was a delightful surprise. One of the hardest things for me to leave Boston was the Boston Symphony, and it's been a great surprise to me. Hope that wasn't too chauvinistic or something on my part, to discover what a great orchestra and hall we have. So yeah, I'm an honorary grandpa to 3 kids, which is kind of fun in the neighborhood. There you go.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to stop the recording and